So don't date anybody who isn't good marriage material, right? But the other flip side of that is, don't obsess over people when you get into a relationship with them. Is this the one? Are we supposed to be together? Oh my gosh, is she my wife? Is he my husband? We're going to pray about this all the time. What do you not want to name your kids? What kind of house do you want to live in? And you start freaking out and you want to get to know everything about them. Please try to restrain yourselves and just not do that. Because it's actually builds false intimacy and false bridges way too quickly. We need to take it slow. We can't get into that sort of thing. I know it seems like wisdom that you have to figure out who this person is and if they're the one who's right for you. But in reality, at the beginning of the relationship, and I know so few Catholics who do this, just date them. Don't worry about if they're your marriage partner or not. Enjoy the love. Enjoy the time together. Enjoy being together. It's supposed to be a time where it's low-stress dates, and you just love that time together. And over time, if you continue to do that without freaking out, you'll be able to see clearly whether they're the one for you or not. But the more you freak out, the more you panic about it, the more it actually clouds your judgment. So just enjoy dating. Be okay with it. Go on a date or two with someone. You don't have to, go out with them again. If someone's mature, they're not going to freak out about it, I've been out with lots of girls, lots and lots of girls. And it was all good, So that's one Catholic problem. The second Catholic problem, going too quick into a relationship, is getting too physical in a relationship too quick, right? Because why? I tell people not to kiss right away at the beginning of their relationships, or for a while. And people are like, what? You're crazy. I tell them, no, keep the kissing away. I told my wife as soon as I met her, I'm not going to kiss you for a long time. And she said, what? Why? And you know what I told her? I told her, because I want to fall in love with you. And not with what you can give me. Not the feelings that might come with kissing. And I don't want to be distracted by all those other things. I want to get to know you and fall in love with you. And she's like, but that's the reason why we do that. I can't have a high school mentality of, I walked home on a date, I got to kiss her because that's what you're supposed to do. No, that's how high school people think. We kiss people because kissing means something. When I finally kissed her, for the first time in my whole life, the kiss actually meant what I wanted it to mean. It actually meant what it was supposed to communicate. One saint says that when you kiss someone, you're actually breathing a piece of your soul, a piece of your whole person into them. That is how pure and how powerful a kiss is supposed to be. But so many people just start doing it so quickly and it just becomes what you do. Let's make it mean something. So when you're in love with someone at the beginning and your emotions are running strong and you start kissing and making out right away, well, what happens when your emotions keep growing stronger because you keep liking the person more? You can't go further physically, so it's just like getting pent up inside of you. But if you take the relationship of love and just hold hands or put your arm around me, go rollerblading, go to the beach, watch a movie, do other things and let the other stuff come in time. A kiss is supposed to be an expression of your love. That's already there. And how much you care for them. Not just something you do because you're supposed to and you don't want to get dumped. And I had to communicate to her that I loved her, liked her, then loved her, and I had to communicate all my feelings to her, and I'm so glad I went out with her, and she's beautiful, and all of this other stuff, to let her know that even though I'm not kissing her, this is how I think of her. So that when I kiss her, my kiss said all of that in one little kiss. And I think that's a really powerful thing if we come back to understand what it means. So, number 2, that's attraction, emotions, feelings. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is love as desire. We as humans desire to be completed, don't we? That's why we desire someone of the opposite sex. That's why we desire to be married. When Adam was on earth, God made him perfect. He was a full human, male and female. He had everything. He was a whole person. But God took a part out of him and built up a female. So now he's masculine male and she's feminine female, 2 different parts, both seeking to become a whole person again. That's a good thing. The bad thing is when opposites attract in a bad way. If someone's, let's say, shy, and she can't tell her landlord who's taking advantage of her that she can't pay the bills or that he needs to wait longer, she wants to date someone who's assertive, so he'll go talk to the landlord for her. No, that's unhealthy. You need to become your own person, and you need to become the person who can do everything, It's not just, only women wash the cars and only men take out the garbage. No. For the exceptional 7% of marriages, who washes the dishes? Whoever bumps into it first. Who takes out the trash? Whoever bumps into it first. Yes, sometimes there's more masculine roles and more feminine roles, but let's stop the boxes and become the people that God made us to be. So desire is an incompletion. We desire to be completed by someone, and that's really good. That's the way God made us. That's why it's super important that we make sure that the person is compatible with us, and we're not dating just out of low self-esteem or fear that we're not going to get married, or just a compromised relationship. Stage 3 is goodwill. Love as goodwill. After we've climbed the stairway a bit, we've kind of gone a long ways, we've got to know the people in general, then you come to a stage called goodwill, which is completely free of self-interest. It's selfless, where you really love the other person. You take all the selfishness off you, because that's one of the hard parts, right? There's sometimes we have the tendency to use people. We don't mean to, we just happen to. And there's sensual attraction and there's sentimental attraction. They say in general, though not always, in general, men tend to use women physically to make themselves feel better or to get that pleasure, and women tend to use men emotionally to make themselves feel better. And so while sensual love is good in marriage, and it can give fire and passion in marriage, the danger of it is that it can go quickly into lust. And lust is always, even in marriage, the opposite of love. Lust seeks to get and take pleasure for oneself. Love seeks to give and to make the other person happy. And that's what marriage is, isn't it? If both sides are giving 100%, then both sides are receiving 100%. I hate when people say, oh, where's your better half? I'm not a half and she isn't either. I'm a whole and she is too. Amen?
Amen.
I'm a whole person. So, and she is a whole person too. And she's not my better half. She's my soulmate. We're both people together. So think about that. We can't devolve into using people emotionally or physically. Love in its nature says, I don't just long for you, but I long for what is good for you. I long to give you what is good and to do what is right for you. That is the language of love. I don't just long for your good, for you as good, but I long for your good. That's what Pope John Paul II says. So it comes, some people say, I'm just going to throw this in here right now, and it's usually for younger people, like teens and maybe college people, but we all probably have thought about it at some point in our life. People ask, how far is too far in a relationship? How far can you go with a girl on a date, right? Well, true love doesn't ask that question. How far can you go? That's like me taking my wife into my arms on the edge of the Grand Canyon and seeing how much fun we can have, how much close I can get to the edge of the cliff without jumping her off. Is this fun? Is this fun? Is this fun? If the true love, the nature, the language of true love would turn that question around, it wouldn't say how far can I get her to the edge without actually falling off, or how far can I go on a date before we cross the line. The true love question would say, how far can I keep her away from that cliff? How far can I go to protect her heart, to protect her mind, to protect her soul? How far can I go to keep her away from the cliff and to work for her good? That's the question we should be asking, not how much fun can we get, but how much can I love her and give to her? So love, in order to be love, must be genuine, the Pope says. He says it actually has to be love and not just feel like love. I remember telling a woman who came up to me once, she's like, my boyfriend and I love him so much, but we keep falling into sin. We keep doing stuff that we know aren't from God and we know we shouldn't be doing, but it's so hard and we keep doing it, but I love him. And I said, well, okay. I said, so basically what I'm hearing is that you say, honey, I love you, and then I'm going to lead you away from God and closer to hell, but I love you. And she's like, that's morbid, but true. She's like, I never thought about that before, but you're right. I'm actually leading them closer to hell by doing this stuff. I'm leading them away from God and then telling them I love him. But I'm actually doing the opposite of love. And she's like, huh. And she really hit her hard. That if we love someone, we're not going to want to bring them to a place of sin or selfishness or anything else. And I'm not up here to tell you that I'm perfect or you have to be like me or anything like that. We're all in the same boat. We all have the same struggles, we all have the same temptations, and we all find it difficult. But I think I might find it more difficult than other people because, I don't know, I'm consider myself more cursed than other people, but I've just had to pray about it more and work on it more and just beg God to change my heart and make it pure, make it loving. And that's what I've spent years and years and years doing. Pope John Paul II, in his 2 books, changed my life. With my last girlfriend, before my wife, after we broke up, I begged God not to make me a priest. I begged God just to give me the chance. I begged God just to give me the chance to have one more relationship. Even if he wanted me to become a priest, at least let me have another girlfriend. I need to redeem myself as a man. I need to figure out what it means to be a man, and I need to do what's right. And so reading those books just transformed my life. It's just so beautiful and so phenomenal. So I recommend, if you haven't read Love and Responsibility and you can understand it, it's really, really good. The last stage, where are we at, sweetie, the time? We've got 30 minutes?
3 minutes.
Oh, great. So the last stage is marital love. Marital love. So in love, the different characteristic between marital love and all other loves is the Pope says that we as humans are our own people, right? We possess our own I, our own me. Nobody can want something for me. I'm my own person. Nobody can enslave me or make me change my mind. I, because I have free will, have to choose to do what I want and choose to change my mind. I can't be anyone's slave, or at least it's not moral to be. But in marriage, many people think it's, ball and chain, shackles, your life's over, right? You have no time, you just lose everything, all freedom, when in fact, that's such a pessimistic, immature way to look at marriage. The real mature way to look at marriage is you surrender your I. You surrender yourself. You give yourself as a lifelong gift to your soulmate. And they surrender themselves and give themselves as a gift to you. And together you make a gift of yourselves to each other. Can someone get the door? Thanks. I hear someone knocking. So you give yourselves to each other. You surrender yourselves to each other. So it's not slavery, it's freedom. Because only in self-sacrifice, because self-sacrifice is the opposite of selfishness, and that's what the world wants. They want selfishness. They want their time, their freedom, their this, their that. But when we give ourselves to the other, that's what actually is love, and that's what makes happiness and joy and peace. So, in order to have a happy marriage, we should be working on ourselves now. We should be working on becoming more selfless now, without being needy. We need to become working on overcoming our lust, our pride, our control issues, our trust issues, our security and vulnerability issues, or any other issues that we have, our anger, our impatience, our freaking out, whatever it is, we have issues. Everybody has issues. No one's perfect. But the more you work on them before marriage, the easier it's going to be to enter into marriage and have a good one without all that stuff coming out later and then having to deal with it. Obviously, some of that stuff is going to come out later. I have money issues. Serious money issues, and that's one thing that makes me freak out. And that's one thing I have to work on. But I'm glad it's just one thing and not 100 things, because then that would be a little overwhelming. So the more we can work on before marriage, addictions, eating disorders, anything else, you don't want to bring that into marriage. You want to be a whole, full, complete person. Because marriage is difficult. And don't rush into engagement, and don't rush into marriage. Because that is the most precious time where you build the habits. Some people say that, it's the woman's day, right? Men have no say in the wedding because it's the woman's day. I hear that all the time. Like, really? Last time I checked, 2 people were getting married. And in fact, if the woman does everything, and I know a lot of women who do, they just take the reins and do everything, and while the man happily sits by and does nothing. And that's going to be what the rest of your marriage is, where the guy sits on the couch and does nothing, and the woman has to do everything, and she starts resenting the husband for doing nothing. The fact is, what you learn in engagement and the habits that you form are going to be the habits you form for the rest of your life. That is the most important part of your relationship. It's not a time to discern whether this person's right for you. You should have already discerned that before you ask them to marry you. You should know that they're ready for you, and now you're preparing for the rest of your life with them. My wife and I never fought. Hardly ever, ever. in dating. The only time stuff came out was in our engagement. Because she wants, like, I want this for my wedding, I want this, I want this, I want this. And I'm like, great, you want to spend this into eternity before we even get married? We're not going to have any money, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I feel like you don't want us to have anything in marriage. And I'm like, and I feel like you want to spend everything so we don't have anything in marriage. So it's like, we actually had, some little tips, and those were good. Because we got to get to know each other. And we got to learn communication skills, conflict resolution, and the most important life lessons that we're going to carry in for the rest of our life. And if you put those into good practice, then you're going to have those for the rest of your life. It's way too easy to get nitpicky. It's way too easy to be judgmental and critical. It's way too easy to start doing this, 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 and this, and this, when in fact you want to start off with good habits and get better and bring them along with you for the rest of your life. The last thing I want to say is, this is the way Jesus loved, isn't it? Jesus loved his church to the point of death. He loved his bride to the point of death. And he tells us, men, love your wives as Christ loved the church. And he laid down his life for her. Well, if you're a guy and you hear that, you're like, whoa, I have to lay down my life for my wife? Yes, you do. And life comes through death. So we can't do whatever we want in marriage. We have to be selfless. And that's what he means by dying to yourself. I might want to use my wife. Let's say I want to lust after her. She's looking really good, and I just want to, go to bed with her because she's looking really nice, and I want something for myself. Well, that's a lustful attitude. I need to want to be with her out of love and not lust, and I need to kill and die to that lust. Or if I want to freak out at her because she, let's say, I don't know, left the counter door open again, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to get angry at her. I need to die to my impatience, in my not being an understanding person, and be a little bit more loving and charitable toward her. So we got to die to these things of ourselves. It's way too easy to be self-righteous. I have a right to do this. She did that again. I've done this, or he did that, or he did this, or she. We have so much self-righteousness, and we're so critical. But we need to get over that, and then we can work toward a happier marriage. The last thing is, love the other person that they want to be loved. This is the hardest part. Loving the other person the way they need to be loved. There's visual type people who love getting flowers. Oh, flowers! Love seeing little love notes. Oh my gosh, she loves me. She wrote me a note. Love seeing the house clean. Oh my gosh, she cleaned the house. He knows I like that. You see how much they love you. I'm visual, very visual. I like to see visual things. That's how I feel loved. I like to see my wife come up and give me a hug. I like to see her, show her love to me. Other people are auditory. So if you clean the house, they're going to be like, thanks, dear. They want to hear 1,000 times a day, I love you. You mean the world to me. They want to hear something on an answering machine out of the blue, be like, hey, I love you. You're beautiful. And I just want to say your smile lights up the dark night. Whatever it is. Those are auditory people. But if some auditory people who are auditory are going to instinctively think that kinesthetic people want to hear how much they love them, because that's how they like to be loved, auditorily. So they're going to be like, honey, I love you, you mean the world to me, you're beautiful. And the guy's going to be like, thanks, sweetie. And it's like, I realize looking back at some people's marriages that they tried to love each other the way they wanted to be loved, and yet they both felt like they were giving something, and yet both felt like they weren't getting anything. And like the kinesthetic person who just wants to be rubbed, or wants to be held, or cuddled, or just wants to be told that it's going to be okay. They don't say much, but they're close. So blabbing your ear off isn't going to show them that you love them. So some people are like, yeah, but, let's say you're visual, and you don't want to cuddle. You don't want to hold hands. You're not really into that. You'd rather talk out all your feelings for the next 2 hours. So that might be you, and you're like, oh, well, cuddling on a couch, that's not me. Or, holding hands and just being quiet, that's not me. Or communicating my feelings for 2 hours, no, that's not me. Let's just say be quiet. Well, in marriage, it needs to become you. You need to get over yourself, as I need to get over myself. They are that way because that's not the way I like to be loved. It's like if you like chocolate, you give someone else chocolate. They might not even like it, but you do. It's kind of the same mentality that we use for love and relationships. The fact is, we need to figure out what their love style is, and even if it makes us feel uncomfortable, we need to get out of our comfort zone and do that. That's what makes exceptional marriages. Loving people the way they need to be loved. And if they're really loving and selfless, they're going to be doing the same thing for you. One of the best qualities you could look for in a future spouse is someone who's able to admit they're wrong and is willing to change. The last thing you want is a stubborn mule in marriage, because then you're going to get stuck with it for the rest of your life. You know, like someone recommended me to that was one of his top 3 things to look for in a future wife. It's someone who will admit they're wrong and work on changing. And I'm always messing up with my wife, and I'm always like, sweetie, I got to work on that, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm always apologizing, I'm always having to work on it. But you know what? That makes us better people. It makes us whole people. And that makes us the kind of people that God wants us to be. And that's the purpose of marriage, is to get to heaven. The purpose of marriage is to get your spouse to heaven first, and then if you have children, your children to heaven. That's the goal of marriage. Not cars, money, job, fame, popularity. Heaven. Heaven is the goal. So you want to make sure you're going to have someone who's compatible with you, who wants to go down the road to heaven with you, and who's going to get you there and not be an obstacle. Marriage can either be a hard thing because you're always fighting and it's difficult, or it can be a beautiful thing. I found it so far a beautiful thing. And we have arguments, we have this and that, but we work through them, and I love it. I've actually never had that in a relationship, and I've seen it in very few relationships, but I'm just glad that God made me somewhat normal in order to have a relationship. So in closing, I just want to say, pray for your future spouse now. Don't start dating with them and then praying with them for long periods of time, and praying for boys and girls' names that you want to have. Don't do that. Pray on your own for a future spouse every day, that God will lead you to the person, the soulmate that you are supposed to be with. And pray that it'll be a happy and successful marriage. And pray that He'll open up your eyes to see things that you can't see or that you didn't know about yourself. And I guarantee you, it'll be a whole new world.